Hello folks, my name is Mark. My peoples, where you at? So looks like Kamala Harris has decided upon Tim Walz to be her running mate. His name is Walz, W-A-L-Z. I keep saying Waltz, but it's actually Walz. He is the governor of Minnesota, and he's got a pretty good progressive track record. Actually, looking through what he's accomplished, I was pretty surprised. I didn't think that somebody like this really ever came within striking distance of the White House. It's usually not a thing. But yeah, Tim Walz is actually the real deal. This guy seems to be genuinely wholesome. So, a little bit about him. He came from a blue-collar family, apparently, not a rich man at all. He was a school teacher for 20 years, and then also served in the National Guard, which is, yeah, that's cool. Apparently also was a high school football coach for some of those years as well. And then he got into politics rather late in his life, right around 2003 or so, resigned from the National Guard in order to go into the Senate. Got himself elected into the Senate right around there and spent about 10 years in the Senate or so, and then got elected as the governor of Minnesota. And from what I can tell, he's done some really great things for the people of Minnesota. His record pretty much speaks for itself. So let's go over some of the stuff that he's done. He's most famous for, right now, what they're promoting is the fact that he passed free lunches for the kids in his state. No means testing. See, one of the things that you always get, even from Democrats when it comes to these types of social programs, is they always want to mean test it. We don't want rich people taking advantage of these programs. Tim Walz said, just screw that. Everyone who's got a kid in public school, no matter if you're rich or poor, whatever, you get free food. What's wrong with that? How come you can't feed the students? It's been demonstrated that when kids have lunch and they're able to eat, they do better in school. So what do you really care about? Do you care about saving a couple of bucks because someone who makes a little bit too much is getting food for their kid? Or do you care about all of the kids getting good grades and then going on and going to college and getting great jobs and thereby improving the economy of your state? And like, which one do you actually give a shit about? He also did a program where he provided free tampons for the girls in school. That's something that the right wing is trying to make fun of him for. But we can talk about that a little bit later. I think that's a great thing. I'm not even a woman. But I'm sure you ladies out there could appreciate that. You're in school, things happen, and you got free supplies for what you need them for, right? I don't see what's so wrong with fucking that. If we can provide, pencils and erasers and shit, how come we can't provide free sanitary supplies for the girls? I mean, what the fuck is the problem? How come we just don't make all the kids bring all their own toilet paper, too, while we're at it? I mean, what the fuck? What's the problem with that, right? He also legalized marijuana in Minnesota, which is always great there. No reason to be throwing people in jail for that, if we can help it. He passed a child credit of $1,750 per child, which is actually kind of awesome. See, the thing with that doesn't sound like very much. Right, $1,750. Well, imagine if you have 3 children or 4 children. That adds up pretty quick. That's almost, with a family of 4 with 2 kids, that's what, almost $3,000 some odd dollars? And then imagine you have 4 kids. That could add up a lot. That could save people a lot of money. And, when you have kids, you need that money, right? So, good. That's fucking awesome. Good for him. He passed multiple state infrastructure bills. Always got to get some of that state spending out there to get people jobs. I see nothing wrong with that. That's great. He passed a law that gives free college tuition to people with low incomes. That's fantastic as well. Ideally, everybody should just have free college. We should just do that in the same way they do it in Europe. You take a test or whatever. If you qualify, then you can get in. That's better than nothing. One that the right wing is really going to hate, he passed a bill that does universal background checks for gun purchases. The right wing is really going to hate him for that one. And I think that's awesome. It's about time somebody tried to do something about like the runaway fucking gun laws in this country that results in the highest amount of firearms death in a first world country. We don't have the highest amount of gun deaths in the entire world. I believe that belongs to Brazil. But we are a pretty close second. I mean, there was something like 35,000 firearm deaths a year in the United States. There's no reason why we need to allow that to happen. Like, if you go to Europe, if you go to Japan, if you go to fucking other countries like Cuba, it's way lower. You know, even other countries where they allow firearms. You know, where everybody is allowed to have a firearm. Canada, you're allowed to have firearms in Canada. Australia, you can have firearms in Australia. It's a lot more regulated. They're doing something right because they don't have even a fraction of the amount of dead people that we get every single year from fucking firearm deaths. So it's like, what are we doing wrong here, folks, right? So Tim Walz definitely seems to be a genuinely wholesome person. So, of course, the right wing is attacking with everything they got. But everything they're attacking with seems to be falling pretty short. For example, we have here Joey Marinaro. This is actually Patton Oswalt pointing this out here. But let's take a look at what Joey Marinaro, how the fuck he's Joey Marinino, however the fuck, whatever this guy's asshole, this last name is. He is attacking with wholesome pictures of Tim Walz's family. Okay, like, so here's, you know, him and his wife and his daughter and his son. Like, how is that supposed to be an attack? Like, what's the problem here? Right? Like, how am I supposed to look at this and think he's a bad person? They just look like normal people. Here's another one, grandfather of the squad, showing him with a picture of AOC. I guess just having you in a picture with AOC is supposed to be an attack. This makes me want to vote for the man even more, because I think AOC is awesome, but whatever. These are conservatives we're talking about, so they, you know, who even knows how the fuck they think. Joey Marinaro, Tim Walz created a Beyonce Day in Minnesota. That's what a pandering buffoon this guy is. I don't see what's wrong with Beyonce Day. I mean, I'm not that much of a fan of Beyonce, but I'm pretty sure plenty of people are. So yeah, that really doesn't make a lot of sense. You know, let's attack the man with pictures with wholesome pictures of his family, and also the fact that he likes Beyonce and likes AOC. I don't know what's up with that. This is Faith Backrub. Tim Walz slams Trump. The best part about being the vice president candidate for the Dems is that my running mate will never try to have me hung by a crowd of her own supporters. Oh, Tim Walz getting a little saucy there, man. Okay, let's open a few more of these. There's a big attack going around trying to blame Tim Walz for the actions of various rioters during the BLM protests. This is Free-Spirited Wanderer. The only people who support Tim Walz the coward are the people that don't have to live under his policies in Minnesota. I did this. I guess Tim Walz himself is personally responsible for every single person who went out and rioted and started a fire. I mean, never mind the fact that there were BLM protests going around the entire country in virtually every state, especially in the lower 48. Never mind that fact. Never mind the fact that there was violence all over the country because of the police who were attacking protesters. All right. If any of you forgot what happened in 2019 and 2020, that's what it was. The police were attacking the protesters. That's how it fucking worked. That's where the violence came from. And then people started protesting the police. And then there were, like, you know, instances where people were, like, protesting outside of, like, police stations and shit like that. And yes, you know what? There was violence. Yes. There were fires. There were things like that all over the country. That's what happens when you have civil unrest. I don't see how Tim Walz is personally responsible for any of that. I guess what they're trying to say is that Tim Walz just didn't call out the National Guard and just didn't order them to fire on all of the protesters and kill them. I guess that's what the right wing really wants, huh? Another one from Sarah Huckabee Sanders. In her first big decision, Kamala reveals who she answers to, the far left. Whoa! Oh no! Oh no! Kamala Harris answers to the far left. Is this supposed to make me not want to vote for her? Of course, I am not one of Sarah Huckabee Sanders' fucking mindless MAGA robots that follow. Who the fuck follows Sarah Huckabee Sanders on Twitter? I don't understand that shit. She's like the most uncharismatic person. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I guess that's supposed to be an insult. In case you guys out there aren't keeping score, progressive policies in this country are popular. People like things like food for school kids, or universal health care, or free college, or marijuana legalization, or gay marriage. People like that stuff. Every single one of those has like high approval ratings. We at least should get some of the shit we like in a country that's supposed to be a democracy, don't you think? Not according to Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Sarah Huckabee Sanders thinks that's bad. If you actually give people the shit that they want, oh no, can't fucking have that. Cat Turd's response to this just seems to be posting "oh really" over and over and over again. He's just reposting other people saying, "oh really," because the guy has like 2 fucking brain cells that he could barely rub together. Here's him reposting Megyn Kelly, who is also spreading a lie. Megyn Kelly, Tim Walz signed a bill that lets the state take away your kids if you don't agree to sterilize them and chop their body parts in the name of gender-affirming care. So if your 14-year-old is sad but think it's gender confusion and object to castrating him, the state takes custody. Bitch, right in fucking this piss. Like, I mean, okay, what is Megyn Kelly, like fucking 14 years old here? Why is she writing in like leet speak? Just spell out the word you dumb bitch. This is of course a lie. He did not pass a law saying that the state's going to take away little Johnny if little Johnny doesn't have his dick cut off. That's just not a thing. So what he really did is that he signed an executive order in order to protect gender-affirming care for minors in Minnesota. So there's no law saying that they're going to chop your dick off. That's bullshit. And he signed that executive order after a bill failed in the Senate that would have outlawed LGBTQ conversion therapy, which is, of course, horrible. LGBT conversion therapy, that's where like your super Christian parents send you off to a camp so that they can try to brainwashing you into not being gay or into not being trans, and it just doesn't work, and it like traumatizes the kid forever or whatever. Like that's, yeah, it's shit that it should be fucking outlawed across the entire goddamn country. And since since that didn't pass, that's why he signed an executive order. So there's not a law that says, oh, we're going to forcibly take away your child if you don't agree to have his nuts fucking removed or whatever. That's bullshit. But just to nail that home a little bit, there are somewhere around 40,000 or so children, minors under the age of 18 in this country, who identify as trans. Out of around 17 million children in the country, about 40,000 of them identify as trans. So that is like less than 1%, very, very small. Now, of those 40,000, a number around 4,000 or so are actually on some form of gender-affirming care. So gender-affirming care, in this instance, when you have someone who's under 18, usually comes in the form of just presenting as the gender that you want to present as, i.e. wearing the opposite gender's clothes, getting a haircut that is usually associated with the opposite gender, stuff like that. That's usually where it stays for minors. A very, very small percentage of those, around, like I said, around 4,000 or so, are actually on some form of hormone therapy. Whether that's puberty blockers, whether that's taking, the actual hormones themselves. Around 4,000 kids in the country. A very, very small number of those kids have gotten what's called top surgery. This is usually when they remove breasts, that kind of thing. Less than 500 in the entire country. And this is these are the numbers from the latest available numbers are from 2021. So right around then, right? Less than 500 have gotten top surgery and 0 have gotten bottom surgery in this country. The number of children who are actually having the surgeries, who are actually taking the hormones, it's such a small number. It's a non-problem This is a problem that it just doesn't exist. It's nothing that we have to worry about on a national level or even a state level because so few people actually do it. If you had a drug, for example, where 40,000 people were addicted to it, it wouldn't even be illegal because that's like nothing. That's nobody. There's more than 40,000 people in like my town that I live in. In like fucking not just my town, but like my like little subsection of the town. This is what the Republicans are like losing their minds over and passing laws over and burning books over and all that shit. So just keep all that shit in mind. This is what we're fighting over here. One more thing I want to show you guys here. I've noticed this hashtag flying around, Walz the Coward, and it seems like they're trying to make this a thing where Tim Walz is apparently like, they're trying to say that he's one of those stolen valor kind of guys or whatever, like he's a fake soldier or something like that. You ever hear about that stolen valor? Like they're basically guys that go around and claim they're in the military when they really weren't. That's what they're trying to say with Tim Walz because, you know, he was actually in the military for a number of years. He was in the National Guard, stuff like that. And then he retired in order to go run for the Senate. And they're trying to say that he's a coward, that he left because his unit was going to be deployed to Iraq or something like that. And it's like, the fuck are you talking about? So all of these accounts just jumped up and they're spreading this around. And most of these accounts just seem to be less than a day old. Like this guy, Roy Finkelstein, was like started like today. You know, and he's already just posting over and over, Walz the coward, Walz the coward, Walz the coward. And it's like all of these fucking people trying to post all this shit. Walz the coward, Walz the coward, Walz the coward. See, this is the same guy posting it like 3 times in a row, trying to make this a thing. They're trying to swift boat him is what they're doing. If you kids don't remember what swift boating is, they're trying to lie about his military record to make him look like he's some kind of like faker. And it's really funny. I wanted to bring this up specifically, right? Because it really illustrates to me that the conservatives and Republicans out there don't have any consistent morals or principles or stances on anything. They will lie about everything. Because first off, that's just made up. He didn't like go AWOL or something like that. He's not like a draft dodger or anything. He didn't even protest like how they did to like John Kerry or whatever, try to claim that he was like, he's a traitor to the country, that kind of thing. He didn't even do any shit like that. They just literally just made this up out of fucking like whole cloth. And the thing is, the person they want to vote for, Donald Trump, actually is a fucking draft dodger. Donald Trump lied about like injuries, bone spurs, so that he could get out of going to Vietnam, right? He used his money and his power in order to manipulate shit so that he wouldn't have to go off and fight. And it just really blows me away. It's like the guy you're fucking voting for is like someone who's actually fucking a traitor to this country, who tried to take over the fucking country in a coup d'etat and shit. And you're gonna like turn around and be like, no, Tim Walz is fucking stolen valor. It's like, they really will say anything. They really will do anything. They'll make up any kind of dumb fuck lie because they don't care. Because it's not about the truth for these people. It's about power. It's not about being consistent. It's not about having any kind of moral stance or anything like that. It's about forcing you to obey them and to obey the tenets of their religion and to obey the tenets of their like philosophy, their political philosophy, and all of that stuff. And they don't give a fuck about what's right or wrong, what's true or what's not true. Even the accomplishments or the moral tendencies of the actual leaders they elect. They don't give a fuck about any of that as long as they get to tell you what to fucking do. And that's what it's all about. And it makes me sick. And I'm actually like happy to see that Kamala Harris actually not only chose someone who was progressive, but is actually going for someone who knows how to fight. The whole like Trump is weird thing, Tim Walz came up with that. The thing that's burying Donald Trump right now, that's driving all the conservatives super fucking crazy because they can't handle it when people make fun of them. He came up with that. This is like actually a guy who will stand up for the shit he believes in, and the things he believes in are good. So I'm actually happy. It's like we actually have somebody worth voting for fucking change. Anyway, folks, take it easy. Adios.
Hello folks, if you like what I do and you want to support the channel, please consider buying something from my Etsy shop, supporting me on Patreon, liking and subscribing, and checking me out across my social media links listed below. Thank you all so much, and see you next time.